Happy Monday, everyone. It's time for my daddy's podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Lessons for Success show. I'm your host, Adam Wardlaw, a middle school science teacher and a high school football coach here in the state of South Carolina. Thank you again to everyone who supported the show in our first batch of lessons. By the end of Season 1, Lessons for Success have been heard in 10 countries worldwide and 36 states here in America. Hopefully you all gained some valuable insight from the guests we had. I decided to take the show in a new direction, and I'll begin doing short daily episodes to mimic what I'm doing with my students in the classroom, and I hope you'll make these episodes a part of your daily routine. Monday episodes will feature motivational pieces intended to help pump you guys up mentally for the week ahead. Tuesday episodes will feature practical advice for a variety of topics in order to help you guys function more efficiently. Wednesday episodes will feature wise words from a variety of sources, including movies and songs. On Thursdays, we'll look back in the history books at important events and talk about the lessons we can draw from them. And on Fridays, the show will feature feel-good stories intended to send you off into the weekend on a high note. Keep up with the show on social media at L4S Show or use the hashtag L4S Show. That's the number 4. And before I forget, you can support the show by giving a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Now let's start the show. Welcome everyone to the first ever daily episode of Lessons for Success. The goal for Mondays is to help pump you guys up for the work week ahead. The last couple of years, the very first lesson for success I share with my students is about the all-important characteristic known as grit. I show my students a TED Talk featuring Angela Lee Duckworth, a psychologist who's become very well known for her studies on the concept of grit. When this episode is over, head over to YouTube and search GRIT, G-R-I-T, and it should be the first video that appears. When I introduce this topic, my students always assume I'm talking about grits rather than the word grit. You see, here in South Carolina, my students seem more familiar with the food item grits than this term. Angela Duckworth explains that in her research, it was not necessarily the people who had the highest IQs who wound up being the most successful people. Instead, it was the people who had grit. She defines grit as the passion and perseverance for achieving long-term goals. It is tough for all of us to see the big picture, but you have to be able to persevere through your trials in order to achieve those goals that you have set for yourself. If you're willing to put the time and effort in, your goals are achievable. Be gritty and go out and attack the day. I know it's easier said than done, but when times get tough today, tomorrow, or any other day, tell yourself to be gritty and keep pushing until you overcome those obstacles. Thank you for listening, everyone. What are your thoughts on grit? Get in touch with the show on social media and let me know.
Time for a quick commercial.
That's right, Ellie. This episode is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. And they'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. To get started, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm today. Well, guys, that's it for this episode of Lessons for Success. Don't forget to reach out to the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at L4S Show. Again, that's the number 4. Feel free to share your thoughts on this episode. All the episodes are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or anywhere else podcasts can be found. So be sure to like, subscribe, and rate. Thank you again for listening to the Lessons for Success Show podcast.